And I think everyone just a little bit hesitate to attend the seminar. Not only our group, but also other group, because if you have seminar, you will be restricted by your time by the seminar. So in this case, maybe you will think why I need to do like this way. Okay, but if you think the seminar is just like some kind of reading books group. Do you know one in Taiwan we have a lot of reading books group, and this kind of reading books group, everyone have to attend, and if you do not attend, they will cancel your the membership, and some kind of membership group will have about 200 people in the reading group. So that will be encourage myself too. Sometimes I also want to absent. Sorry to say that. Sometimes I also want to escape, but to be honest, I say last 50 years, I never try to really escape. So please don't escape, otherwise you will immediately stop your improvement. Okay, today's seminar is Aswah's presentation. So Aswah, please.
Thank you, Dr. Shah. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Ned, me, and everyone. Okay. This evening, I would like to discuss about the topic related with the organic acid, and of course, it will also related with the acetic and propionic acid as a part of my research area. So, in this evening, I would like to give this title Effect of Different Method Supplementation and Amount of Organic Acid on Feed Intake and Digestibility. In terms of organic acid, it's referred to all those acids built on the carbon skeleton known as a carboxylic acid. Almost all the organic acid used in animal nutrition, such as formic, propionic, lactic, sorbic, or citric acid, have an alphabetic structure and represent a source of energy for the cell. So related with the organic acid, at least there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 organic acid that we can show in this table, and each organic acid has a specific molar mass. They have specific density, and they have the physical state and also the pKa value in this case. And this related with the effect on the maybe on the performance if we give to the animal. The supplementation of the organic acid at the right dose in animal feed can increase the body weight, improve feed conversion ratio, and reduce colonization of pathogen in intestine. So related to the supplementation, from some paper that we read, we will find that there are two type method of supplementation. The first one is the infusion, which is the just give injection or infuse through the cannula through the cannula, and the second one is just mix in the diet. And mix in the diet itself, it can be divided by two, which is mix in the forage or mix in the concentrate. For the organic acid tonight, this evening we will talk more about acetate and propionic acid. and how is effect on feed intake, but we will look it from the method that they use from the infusion and from the mix in the diet. Like this table, for the first table, the author tried to identify how if they give the infusion of the propionate for the 16.8 mole, but they dilute it in the water for 18 liter, and they give infuse in different amount of the fraction of total VFA, and it's going to be increased. And the consequence from the feed intake in this case, we will notice that this 16.8 mole, it reduced the diameter intake starting from the low level until the high level. And in another situation, we will notice another thing, which is the metabolized energy intake in this case. In this case, it seems like the metabolized energy that we divided from the diet and infusion are different. With the mean difference in this case, I want to say that when the infusion of the propionate is higher, seems like the metabolized energy intake from the diet is decreased, which means the infusion itself will affect on the absorption of the energy intake from the diet. But in the second table, this author will have a different result with the previous one. What I want to say from different result is because, yes, of course, the mole that they give in this case is little bit lower, but I want to mention that they provide the propionate in two forms of the diet, which is the high energy and low energy. And in this case, if we look at from the dry matter intake from 24 hours, we will notice that dry matter intake is decreased from the diet which is the low energy, as we can see in this case. And of course, this will affect on the dry matter and the digestible energy. Unfortunately, even the dry matter intake in here is decreased, and also the body weight in here is decreased, and also the diary gain here decreased. According to the statistic value, they say that decreasing of this dry matter intake and the body weight intake is not related with the propionate itself. So it's more related with the energy of the diet, which means providing the propionate in this case doesn't have any effect on reducing of the dry matter intake in this case. So in the previous slide, it has effect, but in this slide, it doesn't have any effect. Still on the infusion method in the table 3 in this case. In this case, they provide the 0.75 mole per day of the acetic acid. And they try to infuse it in the three place, which is, in two place, which is in the rumen and in abomasum. And then the result that we can see in here is we comparing with the control, we will notice that all this kind of thing will sharply decrease compared with the control. But if acetate itself combined with the natrium or sodium in this case, it seems like the decreasing of milk is not much higher, not much bigger compared with the pure acetic acids. So maybe we can think that the sodium itself has a role to prevent decreasing of the dry matter intake. And in another situation, they try to give the same amount of mole for the acetate and propionate. Then they want to know which one that have a more effect if they provide the same amount of mole per hours. In this case, they give 0.5. Then according to this table, we will notice that even we give the same amount of molarity, that propionate itself getting more reduced or more gift suppressing on the feed intake compared with the acetate. That is in line with the activity for the eating, ruminating, and water intake. So in this case, maybe another paper or another explanation can be said that propionate itself, because they didn't give it through the oral, but they give it through the infuse. It's mean that seems like the propionate itself is more stronger to reduce the feed intake. This is the first reason, and then the second reason maybe the another paper said that in the rumen itself, it has a sensor to detect this kind of the propionate, then it will make the satiety signal to the central nerve system. Like explanation from this author, they try to demonstrate how the propionate might affect the satiety in ruminant. As we can see in this in this block, there is increasing diet fermentability. If the diet fermentability increase, of course, it will cause the propionate flux to the liver after absorption after absorption to the rumen wall, then it will go to the liver. But when go to the liver, there is two things that will be happen, which is it will become the gluconeogenesis in this case, which mean the increasing of glucose demand will occurs and it will need more the ATP in this case. But in another situation, propionate flux in the liver also can cause the oxidation, which means in the TCA cycle it will produce the ATP, and if the oxidation happen, then it will make the satiety become reduced, then affecting on the feed intake. So this is another explanation for this. Still in the infusing method, in this table, we will see that this author tried to identify how is the effect of the infusing method from the acetic, propionic, butyric, and they can compare it with the sodium. So for the pure acetic, for the pure organic acid in this case, they give a 5.3%, 4.1%, and 3.3%. Or they give a 40 gram, 31 gram, and 25 gram, but they mix this kind of the organic acid in the liquid. Then this in the 750, then they infuse in the rumen. The result that we can see here, the feed intake is almost decreased, decreased almost half compared with the initial one, because the initial one is around almost 1 kg, and after they give the infusing, and it will decrease almost a half, at least 2/3, 1/3 until a half. But this situation will be very different if we compare this acetic acid with the sodium. Even in this case, they provide the sodium much more higher, which is the 60 gram, around 8%. And we will notice in this case is the feed intake seems like little bit higher compared with the initial one. So sodium in this case has a role to prevent again the decreasing of the feed intake. And then this is another figure that want to show us about the effect of infusion of the propionate and acetate on 3 and 24 hours of food intake. So this line is inform about the type of the organic acid and the number of mole that we use. And this line is about the feed intake. Then we can notice here is acetic acid and propionic acid, and mix between the propionate and acetic acid seems like during 3 hours after feed intake, we will notice that the feed intake itself will be decreased. But after that, during the 24 hours, we will notice another thing, which is the propionate seems like the has the same feed intake with the control, and also in this case is a mixed propionate with the acetate, which is the mixed organic acid, also show the highest result with the feed intake. So maybe another thing that we can notice here, this is the mixed propionate, mixed organic acid seems better rather than single organic acid. So infusion were designed to supply large amount of volatile fatty acid over small period of the time, and thus increase the stress to the animal. Area of the rumen or ruminal vein may be the site of receptor sensitive to change in the concentration of acetate and propionate, which in turn to the provide stimulate to central nerve system for determination of meal. Now we are going to the mix of the organic acid in the diet. In this case, the author tried to identify how is effect of the organic acid if we mix in the diet based on the different ratio. 2% of acetic acid, 1%, and then 3%, which is combined acetate and butyric, and getting higher up to 6%, which mix acetate and butyric. But in this case, the unique one is this percentage, they dilute in the one comparing 5, diluted in the one comparing 5 with the water, and 1/3 of this is dilute in the acid mix in the feeding time at the concentrate, and the rest, which is 2/3, is the mix in the raw heads. So they divide it in the two mix, which is in the concentrate and in the raw hedge. Specific for the dry matter consumption, in this case, we will notice that if the percentage of the organic acid is getting higher, then the dry matter consumption in here is sharply decreased, even they provide the mix in here. So in this case, maybe one of the reason, because this is not infused, this is mixed in the diet, which the most possible reason is because the strongly smelly from the acid itself, then make the animal try to reduce to feed intake to feed this animal, to feed this diet. Another table is about the still in the mix in the diet. They give the different type of the organic acid, which is propionate and acetate, and they mix with the basal diet, which is alfalfa hay in the form of pellet. But the concentration is 10%. So in this case, the propionate and acetate is in form of the sodium acetate and sodium propionate, but the concentration is quite high, 10%. The thing that we notice here is even they mix in the sodium, the feed intake is decreased, and the consequently, the daily gain, also the weight gain also will decrease. And it's also effect on the total digestible energy, then total digestible nutrient and digestible energy. So providing propionate or acetate with the sodium is not always increasing feed intake in this case, but in this high amount of the proportion, it still reduce the feed intake. And this author tried to make a review from some previous experiment from the cows. So he tried to identify how is the effect of the specific of the acetic acid in the diet with the dry matter intake. So we can see here, the raw line is the diet acetic acid gram per kilogram dry matter, and this is the dry matter intake per 100 kg body weight. The thing that we notice here is the per 100 kg body weight and increasing 1 gram acetate, if the content of acetate is 17.3 gram per kg, in dry matter, then it will decrease the feed intake 1.2 gram. Another thing is, if the content of the acetic acid is higher, which is 17.3 until 60 gram per kg in dry matter, then the decreasing of the feed intake is also more bigger. In this case, is 5.6 gram. So in this case, we will notice that 17.3 gram still reduce the feed intake. Maybe this is maybe around 1.7% still reduce the feed intake. So the dry matter and feed preference by ruminant are affected by the chemical composition of the feedstuff, including sensory characteristics like taste and smell and the post-ingestive feedback the animal receive. In mixed organic acid in the diet, high percentage of organic acid supplementation cause pungent smelly. Then it's possible to reduce feed intake. In goat, in this case, another paper said the acetic acid 9 until 70 gram per kg can decrease preference for the eating if the diet is the maize silage. And there's some extension recommendation propose an upper limit of the 30 gram acetic acid per kg dry matter for dairy and beef cattle ration to avoiding negative effect of the total dry matter intake. Now about the acetic and propionic acid on digestibility that we want to look from the infusion and mix of organic acid in the diet. First one from the infusion point of view. So this table try to identify how's the effect of the infusion method on digestibility. Even they not significant, but we will notice in this case is providing 62 millimole per hours of acetic acid and 35 millimole per hour of propionic acid seems like still make the digestibility itself is decreased in this case. But another thing in this case that I notice is that we notice is the nitrogen balance, which is the retained N from the infusing, whether it's from acetic or propionic, seems like higher compared with control. And another infusing method that we want to look from the digestibility in this case is if we provide the acetic and propionic acid in this case in form of 36 mole per day and 20.5 mole per day that they dilute into 40 liter of water, we will notice that the high forage, if we provide acetate, and high forage, if we provide propionate, they make the digestibility in this case is more higher compared with the in the high forage or even in the low forage. And the ratio is 40-60 and 60-40. This is the same table as previous mentioned, but we talk in this case is about digestibility. About the digestibility. So in this case, if they provide a 2% of acetic acid in this case, and dilute in the one comparing 5 water, and mix this acetic acid with the concentrate and with the raw heads, they will find the higher digestibility compared with other ones. So decreased digestibility of nutrient after infusion would be due to a decrease of microbial activity in the rumen. On certain amount of organic acid infusion, it will reduce the rumen pH. Decreased rumen pH will suppress the microbial activity, in particular cellulitic bacteria in the rumen. And maybe this is the last table that I want to show if from the paper that we read. I want to show that this is the effect of different method supplementation and amount of organic acid on ruminant performance. The first column is mentioned about the author, starting from maybe 1947, 57, Armstrong and Blackster, until 2001. And then this is the second column is the type of the animal, and there's the method that they use to make supplementation, whether it can from the infusion and also mix in the diet. And this is the organic acid, which is acetate and propionate in different form, mole, and then percentage of the in form of the gram. Then this is the effect on the performance that we notice here is at least Fi is the dry feed intake, pH, digestibility, body weight, metabolized energy, water intake, and gross energy. And D here meaning is decrease, and in here meaning no effect, and I here meaning is increase. So the information that I want to show from this table is seems like all the author from this table they mention mainly effect on the feed intake from the organic acid. Mostly in this case, they found that providing the organic acid is decreased, but we will find that some is increased in this case. The increasing in this case is, I notice here because this is NaAC, which means this, they provide the also mixed with the sodium in this case. Like in this case, the NaAC, so NaPr, which means natrium acetate, sodium acetate with the and then sodium propionate in this case. And some of them, some of the paper cannot show the consistent result because some is mostly show the decrease, only few can increase, but another thing they didn't give any effect. And I put the green color in here. The green color in here is, I just want to notice, at least for myself here, that even we, for the infusion method in this case, even we give a 1.5 mole per day, it still reduce the feed intake, pH, body weight, metabolized energy, and water drinking if we use the using infusing method. But if we mix in the diet, then we will notice that 17.3 until 60 gram per kg of the acetic acid is also still make decreasing the feed intake. So in this case, 17.3, maybe around 1.7% still reduce the feed intake. So this is the conclusion. Then the conclusion is, I will say the large part of the variation in the effect of organic acid on the feed intake and digestibility was due to the method, level, and molar concentration which applied. And the oral administration acetate and propionic acid have less effect in reducing feed intake compared with the infusing method. And then the last one is the pure organic acid infusion is more hypohagic than reduce the feed intake compared to combine it with the sodium. So this is the end of my presentation this evening. Thank you for listening.
Any question, comments, or suggestion? Susu?
So from this from the review, do you suggest that when we fed the organic acid to the ruminant animal, should we use the combined one, like combined with the calcium or with the sodium?
First, I read one paper that I didn't mention in this. I will conclude that the mixed organic acid will be far more better rather than only single or combine with the two. Because another paper said they combine maybe around 4 organic acid and then the amount is less than 2%. is so the little bit higher on feed intake and also affect on the milk production.
Because if the organic acid can really affect on the palatability, so why in the normal gastric animal they can increase to the 3% and really can increase the feed intake. And we also can see also in this table, we can see that if you did not feed but you using the method to infusion the organic acid, they will also decrease the feed intake. So what's the reason? It's really related with just only related with the palatability.
If we look at from this table, I'm thinking like this. So we distinguish this by two methods, infusion and then diet. And in the diet, they don't want to eat. I mean, the feed intake will be decreased. We can assume maybe this relate with the digestibility, with the palatability. But in this case, for the infusing method, because they didn't smell, I'm thinking that they didn't smell this kind of the organic acid because they get from the cannula. So one of the possibility is organic acid itself. In this case, is propionic acid. If the amount is too higher, then it will make the pH decrease. I'm thinking like that. This is the first possibility. And then the second possibility is another paper said that the propionic itself, it seems like a sensor, like the organic acid in the rumen. In the rumen itself there is a receptor or sensor that can detect if the amount of the organic acids already abundant, then this will give signal to the central nervous system to stop to eating. So there is two possibility in this case, not only from the palatability, but from the organic acid itself.
New.
Thank you, Aswah, for your presentation. Could you go to page 13? Yes, thank you. In a figure of a 3-hour food intake, we will see in the 2.5 acetate and 2.5 propionate is have the lower food intake, right? But in the last one, 1.25 propionate and 1.25 acetate, why is is increase the food intake if we use the combine? Thank you.
In this case, I'm thinking that the pH, even they didn't mention the pH, but I'm thinking that the pH that resulted from the mix propionate and acetate in this case is higher than only pure propionic or acetate. And then we can see that the mole also different. In this is mole only 125, and in here the mole is 2.5. So the combination of this will make the pH not drop, not drop very sharp. Then it will make the feed intake better compared with single organic acid.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Who is Annika? I cannot understand. Oh yes, Miss. Me. Any question? Comments?
Yeah, thank you, Aswah. I a little bit want some like a point of view, like which method are suitable for using at the farm, like formal farm.
I think even the practical way, of course the mix in the diet is the most appropriate way to be applied in the farm, and mix organic acid according to this review seems like far better rather than single. So uh,
Like
mix
like
mix it.
using mixes in the diet, right? Then
Yes.
for cow, if add if add the organic acid lower than 17.3,
Mm,
that will be, if I say that, if we add the organic acid less than 17.3, as you review, maybe we'll increase the feed intake and increase digestion and body weight, right? If I understand clearly.
yes, yes. Uh,
Just for the cow.
yes, just for the cows, according to this case.
Like for some more ruminant, which the level are good for them, like
Uh,
lamb or sheep. You have any suggestion?
in this case, because in this case, at the moment, the real appropriate quantity is how much percent should we. I don't know yet, because I mean I don't know yet is if we compare only based on the previous experiment. In this case is 17.3, which means 1.7%, still decrease 1.2%, 1.2 gram dry matter intake. So we assume that maybe if the organic acid less than 1.7%, it will give the maybe better result, maybe.
Okay, thank you.
Chat.
Hello, Aswah.
Hello, chat.
My question is from the most of your table and results, we can see the supplementing the acid, organic acid decrease the feed intake, right? And in specific for in this table,
Yes,
the review from 1957 to 2018, there is lots of like feed intake decrease and body in some case body weight also decrease. So
yes,
you already get your preliminary result, right?
yes.
So how do you see your result in this table? Is there any difference about performance?
if if I compare with the preliminary result, propionic comparing with the acetate, uh, seems like the propionic get lower feed intake than the acetic. Then in my experiment is increasing feed intake, it occurs in the one, two, three. maybe in week 18 to 20, 18 20, I mean in the bigger size of the animals. So I'm thinking also like what the Dr. Shah suggests. Ask me to think maybe this also relate with the capacity of the rumen. I mean the size of the rumen when the animal is getting bigger, then it can accept this concentration of the organic acid. So back to your question, I will reconfirm again, Chad. Seems like acetic acid saw the better result in my experiment.
Okay,
But
thank you.
the egg is in the old period.
Yulita?
Okay, thank you for your presentation. I'm sorry, I still not really understand. Would you please go to page 9? Uh, Here, I'm not really understand actually why combination sodium acetate comparing with the acetic acid has the higher parameter intake. It has relation with the absorption, or maybe would you please explain, because I'm not really understand. I mean,
Using the sodium in this case, and we are thinking that the sodium itself, another function is a buffer. Then if we can mix this acid with the buffer in the diet, then it will not make the pH in the rumen down very sharp. Which means if the pH down very sharp, it also has another meaning, which is defaunation. Then the microbe and then the activity of the fermentation will decrease. So the using of the sodium in this case, I'm thinking like the buffer to maintain the pH of the rumen going down, to prevent the pH going down.
thank you.
Susu? Susu is escape.
So the first
I'm
question.
the first one who
No, I want to ask you a question about whether Aswah the experiment add any kind of mineral premix.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. In the
Okay.
condensate.
Okay. Very good. OK。寻真有没有问题？不要客气，没有关系，听不懂没有关系，慢慢来。我准备约你，我们来看看要怎么样去解决这些问题。
抱歉，老师，我今天晚了，对不起。
没有关系，没有问题。
抱歉。
那请问下一次慢慢来，慢慢来，我教你以后怎么样问问题法。即使不懂英文有办法问 ，OK？ 你可以像伟俊一样厚着脸皮说那个字我不懂，你可不可以解释给我听？他每次都是这样问的，伟俊对不对？我没有错吧？伟俊对吗？
差不多，有那个味道。
对啊。好，那伟俊有没有问题
？Thank you, Aswah, for your presentation. And may I ask you one question? Is about if the pH in the room are going down, or what will happen?
Going up or going down?
Down.
The normal pH in the rumen is around maybe 6.6 6.7 rounded. If that's going down sharply until 5, that's when the situation in the rumen is very acid. Then this is indicated of this indicating of the potency of the acidosis. Or another thing is the number of the bacteria for the cellulolytic is also decreased. And what I want to say is, in the very bad situation, it will make the animal die.
All right.
OK，
OK，
你要问吗？还要问吗？没关系。
没有，因为那个化合物那个生化还没有学到那个后面，
没关系，
头有点痛。
慢慢来，都可以。
Yes,
感知动物营养这一部分比较讨厌一点。OK， my question, I have several questions. The first one is, because your experiment is add some kind of mineral premix, so mineral premix always have sodium or something else. So maybe will also influence on all these kind of things. This is the first one. The second one is, usually the infuse experiment is to try to find out the principle. It's not try to using infuse method to feed the animal. Actually, it's try to find out whether infuse these kind of things will have some kind of negative or positive effect, because they try to find out the principle. Why find out the principle is related to my third question. Okay, so this is infuse is not the formal, is not the normal situation, normal method to infuse for the animal. And then the last one, the last question I wondering is why the animal feed more concentrate, they will produce more proteinic acid or butyric acid, and then they will get more fat content in the milk. So this is not related with body weight gain. This is related with milk content of the fat. And another thing is whether this is related with why say we never not say never. We better to understand if we feed the concentrate more, and they will seems like natural way to feed propionic acid. Is that right? Because if you feed the concentrate more, they will produce more propionic acid. If they feed the grass more, they will produce more acetic acid. Our purpose, our experiment purpose is not to try to show the propionic acid or acetic acid effect on the growth. Actually, our purpose is for the last experiment. We try to find out whether this will influence on the milk fat content or not. Okay, so in this case, the information from the people who feed more concentration, they will produce more propionic acid. They feed more grass, will produce more acetic acid. Why they do not reduce food intake? Why? This is my very serious question about this kind of artificial way to infuse. Okay, so maybe we can thinking about this. and think about it, try to find out the result which they add concentrate and how many percentage or how many propylenic acid they will produce, and if they feed the glass, how many percentage of the acetic acid will increase. So if we're thinking like this way, we will have more wired thinking, rather than we concentrate only on the growth rate or something like that. Okay, and also because in our experiment we provide the premix, so this is one very interesting part. Another thing is, if we do not provide the premix, and many other people, if they provide oral way to feed these kind of things to the animal, whether they put the mineral brick. Do you know my meaning? Mineral brick to the animal. If you have a mineral brick to the animal, that is mean combine the sodium, combine all these kind of things with your propylenic acid or acetic acid in which produced in the diets. If they do not produce any provide any acetic or propylenic acid. Okay, so this is my I should not say comments or suggestion. It's my comment, my argument. This argument is not argue with you. It's argue with this kind of true things happen in the nature. Okay, and if we're thinking like this way, maybe we will better to get some kind of answer. We add the acetic acid and the propylenic acid in our diets in your experiment. It's not trying to increase appetite or something else, not like that way. Okay. And another thing is, can you find out whether the tongue of the ruminant animal's tongue is the same as monogastric animals? Because monogastric animals, we have one student who is maybe he's from Mongolia. I forgot Mongolia or from the Central America, Mongolia, and his experiment is try to find out whether the acetic acid or propylenic acid or some such kind of acid can increase the food intake. And actually, the tongue, if the tongue of the ruminant animal is different from the monogastric animal, it's the same as the monogastric animal, they should increase, because once you increase acid, they will increase the food intake. Okay, and but if they are increased in the blood, and then that is a different story. And if they are increased in the blood, that is mean the people who are doing this kind of experiment on infused is correct. They are correct. They are using the good method to try to prove something, because infused will cause this kind of things go into, maybe go to the blood or maybe go to somewhere. Okay.
Yes. Dr.
So,
Shah,
yes.
Related with the blood and infuse, yes, they say that if they provide this kind of organic acid, then this acid also will increase in the blood.
Yes. I'm not saying that. I'm quite sure about that, but I'm not. My meaning is not in that way. My meaning is if in the milking animals they will decrease the food intake, then how can they increase the milk production? This is my big question mark. Okay, so I didn't talking my conclusion. The conclusion is, if we provide this kind of things, if they decrease the food intake, how can they increase the milk production? How can the concentrating food can increase the milk production? Okay, this is the question. So combine all this kind of information together and try to find out some kind of answer. Maybe your goal, GOAL, your goal for next seminar, you should thinking about this. Okay? Maybe in your experiment shows the growth is no difference. Maybe that is good results. Okay, and you can see from your presentations, the last table. Sorry, I'm talking too much. So for the last table, you show the not influence on the food intake. N is more than infuse, and also some increase. Okay, so in this case, maybe we will need to know whether this kind of increase of these things in natural situation, whether they will increase the food intake or not. Okay, that is my argument. Why I argue like this way is because if my argument is wrong, then should not have increase of milk intake, milk production in dairy cattle or any kind of ruminant animal. Okay, that's my curiosity. You also can say that. Sorry, Ned, I forgot you. What is your question, comments, or suggestion?
Okay, thank you, Aswah, for your presentation, and thank you everyone for sharing questions and some opinions. I have question because I'm not quite sure about monogastric compared with ruminant animal when we use the organic acid. Like in monogastric animal, we normally will use organic acid for the specific like target organ, like we want to reduce pH or something like that. But for ruminant, I'm not quite sure that when we supplement, the purpose is for balance VFA or other benefit. This is our first question. And when go to slide
you better to let him answer first question.
Okay.
Otherwise cannot remember.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Ned. I will say, before I came here, when I was in Indonesia, I never think that organic acid used in the diet for concentrate in our farmer. Then I came here and Dr. Sang asked to read. Then I noticed, oh, organic acid also can use in the diet. Then related to the what's really purpose supplementation of organic acid in the diet. I just want to, as I understood from the dairy aspect, the main reason is this kind of the organic acid, like the acetic acid, that can increase the fat content because they think that the acetic fermentation, acetic acid is the substrate for the milk fat. Then like this way. Another thing like the propionate also, they say that if the proportion of the propionate is higher, which come from the concentrate, then the amount of the milk quantity is more higher. So we think that if we can give them like this way and maybe this can increase the fat content and also the quantity of the milk. This is from the dairy point of view. Thank you.
Continue.
Okay, thank you. Anything related with microbial population or not when we supplement the organic acid?
Pardon me? Related with?
Microbial population.
Oh,
Yes, because acetic acid will increase I don't know which kind of bacteria. Acetic acid will increase the bacteria which produce more fat, and it's a bacteria, and the propionic acid will produce more lower fat. This is so the bacteria will change dramatically. It's a good question, but Aswah needed to read more. Okay, that is very important. And one more thing is related with this topic is, if acetic acid and propionic acid will increase the fat. Acetic acid will increase the fat in the milk. Then maybe they will reduce the weight gain for sheep and goat. Whether in your case, whether they will reduce weight gain? No, not significant. But how about the average?
I think the body weight is this increase. I mean, if this around is 0.5 kg until 0.7, 0.5, I say, in average per week.
For acetic one or for propionic one?
Oh, if we compare with acetic and propionic, it seems like the acetic acid higher compared with the propionic acid.
But lower than control. Yes, that's good. Why? Why lower than control? If they produce fat more, and they should be light. If they produce fat, and so the body weight gain should be light. Okay, so go through this kind of seminar, have this kind of benefit is if maybe we cannot quite totally understand, but in this case we can understand a little bit. Any other comments or suggestion? Because fat is light than the muscle. So if you increase the fat in the animal, and then their body weight will be light.
Okay, thank you. Another question is about because I saw the information from your figure for infusion method that they try to see the results when they they use the organic acid, right, in 3 hours compared with 24 hours. Most of feed intake will increase after 24 hours. Is that right?
Yes. I will open it. This one.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, like most of the feed intake is increased after
24 hours. So I am thinking, because I listened one of your literature review mentioned about when we supplement the organic acid, they will reduce the preference, especially in the maize silage. So I'm thinking if we use the maize silage supplement with organic acid, also reduce here, if they are reduced preference, not sure that they mature after how long that they give or feed to the animals.
Um, in this,
Sorry, Aswah, maybe I'm wrong, because when I look at here, when they use the infusion method, the concentration here, they will affect on feed intake after 24 hours for feed intake.
oh,
But when we feed to animal, we supplement and then feed to the animal. Normally when we collect, we will collect the data daily, right? After we feed animal. So I am thinking they mentioned about the feed intake will reduce, especially will have the silage
yes,
here.
and
So what is going on when we make the silage together with supplement the organic acids? Because when we have silage, they also have some organic, right? Some low pH, right?
yes,
Okay.
related with the silage and organic acid, I ever read that they seems like in the silage, the content of the acetic acid itself is higher compared with the hay or compared with the grass. I mean the fresh grass. I'm thinking this is maybe related during the fermentation process, during the making the silage. Then in this case, the fermentation process already produce little bit acetic acid. Then if we, according to the paper, they said that if acetic acid, if silage itself we mix again with the acetic acid, then the quantity of the acetic acid will be more higher, then it will make more make animal don't then it will make animal not easy to eat because the content of the acetic acid itself.
Any question, comments?
这不好意思，我不太懂这里。
没关系，因为他自己也不太懂。对不起。
Is this because of low pH or what? So they will reduce feed intake.
I didn't, I'm sorry, related with the pH itself.
I suggest, sorry to interrupt you. I suggest to give us a little bit of explanation next time, 5 to 10 minutes, about the silage.
Silage and acetic acid.
Yes. The next time. Okay, because if we answer now, we may not have evidence, so we better to try to find out the information.
Sorry, Aswah, I give you more assignment.
No problem.
No, because I just not clear about this.
Okay.
But I can.
It's good question. Good question. So we don't worry. We better to seminar is for everyone can discuss, and then can
you
try
have more
to find
homework.
and try to find out more information, and so that is better. Very good one. Mm-hmm.
Many ruminant paper they will mention about pH, right? pH and also the ratio of the like VFA or something, especially when we supplement organic acid. Okay, thank you.
Can I have a suggestion for all my students? If we cannot understand what then we say, can I answer for you next time? Okay, that is much better. because if we try to find out the answer immediately, it's not easy. Okay. We may be finished, but at the moment, the time is still quite early. Can I raise a question here? Because this maybe is important for Chet's experiment. Because Chet's experiment is omega-3 and omega-6. And, you know, the omega-3 and the omega-6, the big difference is omega-6 is inflammation's effect. And the omega-3 is no inflammation's effect. What does that mean? That means inflammation will produce more heat. And once they produce more heat, and then that means the heat production should be more. And nobody can measure this part. We can measure this part. So maybe we can, I want Chet to maintain his chicken. And for this purpose, for the second experiment, try to find out whether the heat production, we're already doing this kind of experiment now at the moment, but I still wondering about can we see this kind of result immediately? Susu, can we see this kind of result immediately about the heat production? What I mean immediately is not really immediately. I mean within several days.
You mean for the data or?
Data, yes. Because at the moment, you already have omega-3 and
omega-6.
Omega-3 and omega-6.
With vitamin E or not?
Yes. So in this case, they may be produce more heat. Okay, because all experiment of us should be let everyone notice. Okay, it's not just we know this kind of results. So what is your at the moment? Can we get this kind of result within next few days? Primary result, not necessarily statistics.
Chet have to finish first. So after he finish, I need few days to.
Okay, a few days is mean a year or
No.
half a year.
Depends on Chet, and I have to finish the other subject first.
Okay, Chet, you need a you need to calculate this part immediately.
Okay, I already put the 3 times. Tomorrow is the last day, so after tomorrow I will finish.
So please don't give up the chicken, because a large chicken is more easy to do experiment. Can you see what I mean?
Yes.
Okay, so if this is a way we can break through, not break through, and then we can find some kind of new things in this area. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. And Neil, don't feel frustrated, because I need to think about the good subject. It's not I don't care about you. I'm usually care more about the girls than boys. Sorry, that is a joke. That is a joke. Don't everyone don't feel very stranger. I really need to think about the new subject. Usually our subject is different from others. Okay, I hope we can have a new subject. Okay. As for the Nurita one, your presentation always mention different things, so I'm really a little bit confused. I also tried to find out some kind of new idea, but now it's too early because we finish this experiment is too late. Okay, it's not as was wrong. It's everything cannot match very properly. Okay, so don't worry. So we can find out. So in the very near future, it's not half year or a year. Okay, so we can find out. And Susu is already checked with Canula's company, and the Canula's company said we can get this kind of cannula. We already have this cannula, but we don't want so small amount of cannula. Okay, so we try to buy and then immediately to get this kind of cannula. Okay, that is I want every student, or I want my friends net, and you send the student to here, and then I didn't ear treat her. Okay, so it's no big problem. Just want everyone understand that what's going on now. Okay, and I hope to say, actually I'm reading all the papers every day, try to find out these kind of things. For example, today I'm reading is very interesting papers related with Chet's experiment, and I think Chet has maybe do not read this paper before, so I try to find out whether this kind of phytogenic things related with inflammation, okay, or relate with heat production or not. I cannot produce heat inflammation. I don't want to produce inflammation, but that if we produce inflammation, that means they will have animal welfare problem. Okay, but one situation we can produce inflammation, but that kind of situation, the animal is too big. Okay, maybe not easy to go to the metabolic cage, and that is heat. If the animal became heat, and then they will have inflammation. Okay, and once they have inflammation, and if we provide them something else, for example, omega-3, but if we provide them omega-3, whether they will become heat animal, then became another question. Okay, we provide the soybean oil is because they can provide the omega-6, so they can induce the heat of the guilt. But if we provide the omega-3, whether they will damage the heat, and then we get the opposite result, then that is not what I want. Okay, so this is a general situation. Okay, and why I'm talking in openly, because I think everyone should know this about this. Otherwise, we'll make some kind of misunderstanding. Any question, comments, or suggestion? Okay, so see you next week. Bye bye.
Good night. Bye bye.
Bye bye.